right, Derek Anderson. You've experienced some of the best things an NFL quarterback can experience and probably some of the worst. And I think you've had a heck of an interesting career, particularly for a guy. I think you were, what, a sixth-round pick? I don't know how many people expected you to make it, but you're still hanging around the NFL, and it's been a pretty good career all in all, has it not?
Yeah, it's been good. There's been some amazing highs and some amazing lows, and you know, been through probably more than a lot of guys could ever think about. But it's been pretty solid.
But I want to start. You came out of Scappoose, highly recruited, I think, as a basketball player and a football player. And I want to ask you too. You ever look back after some of these injuries you've had in football and said, "Geez, why didn't I just stick with basketball?"
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I realized that my potential in playing basketball probably wasn't, as good. Obviously playing in the NBA at 6'6", guard that can't really run or jump, but isn't really going to help you. But I look at it, wake up in the morning and wonder, what would it feel like to not be completely demolished sometimes? But would have been fun.
You ended up at Oregon State, recruited, I believe, by Dennis Erickson, and went down and played there, and played for both Dennis and Mike Riley. And I guess I want to ask you about both coaches. What was Dennis Erickson like for you?
He was great. I got there and kind of just let me be me, and obviously probably ended up hurting me more than it did helping me. He kind of threw me in there and just play and do what you do. But then when he left and then Mike came in, and Mike was very structured in everything we did. We ran more of a pro-style offense, a lot more in-depth in the offense, and then kind of got my mind spinning a little bit.
Did it? Yeah, so Mike Riley's system probably would have been better if you'd have seen it as a freshman or sophomore or something like that.
Yeah, just to kind of get into it. It's very in-depth, very similar to things that I've run in the NFL. And so, going into my junior season, having been able to kind of just do whatever and pretty basic reads going into that, where I had control of a lot of different things, caused me to struggle.
You're an interception guy. I mean, let's be honest about it. You throw some interceptions. You're a bit of a gambler, I think. You see a small window, and you're going to try and hit that window. That's kind of gone on from college into the pros, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to probably a high efficiency, throw a lot of touchdowns. I'm going to throw a lot of picks. Obviously, I've kind of tried to work on it as I've got older and got into, understanding game situation, playing the game. I think, like, when I was in college, I just never I was just reckless, and I mean, even my best season in the NFL, I threw 16 picks, and I threw 29 touchdowns or whatever. But I think learning and understanding and managing the game has kind of come with time and the more I've played. But I'm not afraid, I guess. That's kind of the biggest thing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can't be afraid to play that position in the first place, I don't think.
Right.
At that level. Derek, you got drafted in the 6th round by Baltimore, and never played a game for them. They released you, waived you, or whatever. What happened in Baltimore? Just they liked other quarterbacks better?
No,
or you
Kyle Bowler hyperextended his toe our first game against the Colts, and I was a 3rd-string quarterback. And he was out like 8 weeks. And so then I was a 2nd-string quarterback for 2 weeks, and Anthony Wright was starter. And then Coach, we were supposed to be pretty good that year, a couple of years coming off the Super Bowl and all that. And he just felt more comfortable. They brought Cordell Stewart back, having a veteran guy in there, and they released me thinking they were going to get me on, put me on practice squad or whatever. And Phil Savage, who was in Cleveland, was in Baltimore during the draft process, and I was on playing that next day.
Yeah, and you went, I think, your full rookie season without playing, right? Mm-hmm. In retrospect, was that a good thing? I mean, a lot of guys that get rushed right in if they're picked in the 1st round. I mean, mostly you got to play because the amount of money you're making. Was it good for you to sit?
Yeah. Trent Dilfer was there with me my rookie year, which was probably one of the best things that ever happened. He was great to me and Charlie both, teaching us how to prepare for a game, how to understand, how to learn defenses in a short amount of time. And he's been a friend that I've talked to through the process my whole career, really.
You really got off to a great start in Cleveland. It was, I think, your 2nd game. In your 1st game, you hardly played, but your 2nd game, you came in, and it was dynamite. I mean, I thought, you couldn't have asked for a much better debut as an NFL quarterback. You came in, led your team to a win, right?
Yeah. I think it was just, like, again, I just went in without any fear and went in there and played, prepared, trusted what I did. And we had some weapons on that team. We weren't exactly probably built to do that, to throw the ball as much as we did. But, we got in there and, did some things and kind of got that, 07 year rolling.
Okay, and eventually with the Browns, you end up in the Pro Bowl. I mean, which is, I would assume, every NFL player's dream. Obviously there's the Super Bowl, but individually it doesn't get much better than the Pro Bowl. What kind of throw was that?
It was pretty cool. And just kind of going through the whole thing, being drafted, kind of a quick little funny story. And like 2 weeks ago or whatever, I was looking back at it, going through, I found a list of things, of goals I'd made when I was like a sophomore in high school. And that was one of the things I said, be a starter in the NFL, be a Pro Bowl player, I looked at it and was like, something you can't really take away from me that ever happened. Granted, Tom Brady, was out because of an injury or whatever, but I still got to play in it, and, accomplishment that I, achieved and very proud of.
I said you'd experience some highs and experience some lows, and I remember in Cleveland things got bad. I think you actually were one of the players, and it's happened to more than one in Cleveland. You got hurt, and you were booed when you were injured, right? I mean, that's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, it was more of like a cheer that I was hurt,
Okay.
Yeah, but, it was very frustrating because I felt like when I was there, I tried to win every game. I tried to, put the time and the effort in every single week and, give those fans everything that I had. And, I tore my MCL. I couldn't even walk off the field, but I limped off. I wasn't going to let them take me off on a cart, just kind of hard-headed, I guess. And, they were happy about it. But, probably some of it I deserved myself because over time, I kind of just got fed up with it and started kind of speaking out about it. I guess it wasn't just for me, it was for my teammates and the rest of us. It wasn't like, we would struggle at times and we'd have good games, we'd have bad games, and just kind of frustration.
Derek, you mentioned the knee injury that you suffered in Cleveland. There have been injuries along the way, and I think it's almost like the cost of doing business in the NFL. It's a shame, really, but you do pay a price, a physical price, for playing in that league. What other injuries have you had? I'm sure a concussion, right? You just have to have a concussion.
Yeah.
How many?
I've had 7 concussions since one in good old Civic Stadium got me when I was a sophomore in high school. So 1 in college and probably 5 now. And tore my AC joint in 2006. MCL, a couple broken fingers, kind of a couple ribs. Just kind of what comes with it, the price you pay, but I think in the end it'll be worth it.
Are you worried about the concussions? I mean, now there's a lot of information coming to light about how serious they can be, and that many, I would wonder, A, are you close to not being able to play? I don't know what your baseline measurements are or anything. How are you? You seem to be thinking okay.
I have my days. No, I'm definitely, it's something that worries me. Obviously, seeing Steve Gleason and the things that he's going through, he has Lou Gehrig's, I believe it is now, and at such a young age, he's 31, 32, something like that, and to see the guy deteriorate that fast is scary. I got a lot of life ahead of me, family and all that. I'd like to see my kids grow up one of these days when I have them. But, I definitely am getting to that point. I've seen specialists just to make sure everything's good, and, and you get to the point where you have a couple more and the doctors just aren't going to clear you. It's too risky.
So with all that concussion talk in mind, Derek, what do you think about when you hear about bounties in the league and what went on in New Orleans with guys being paid basically to hurt somebody?
Yeah, I was kind of shocked and upset, obviously, when I listened to the audio of that tape that came out. Obviously, coaches want to fire guys up, but that was a little extreme. And I think if you kind of go around and talk to anybody that's ever been part of a team, a coach or a group of guys always seems to put together something like, hey, if you score a touchdown tonight, Johnny's dad's buying pizza after the game, or those things happen, and then you get into the NFL, and there's a lot of guys that have a lot of money, and those things come out and say, hey, you score a touchdown, I'll give you $100, or you return a kickoff, I'll give you $100. Those things happen, but when it gets to the point where you're talking about blowing guys' knees out, attacking guys' heads, it's a little bit more serious. And kind of a bit disturbing.
I'm sure you're not under any illusion that guys on the other side of the ball aren't trying to hurt you.
Right.
I mean, isn't that the way that game's played?
It is. It's a very violent sport, and physical, grown men, guys that want to win, and it comes with it. But you know, I don't think anybody ever would have thought when they kind of got into it that it was that serious. You know, $10,000 to hurt Brett Favre, or $10,000 to. I mean, it's not. To me, it's kind of silly. I mean, you want to win the game. It doesn't matter if you're going to make another $10,000, does it?
Not at some point.
So I mean, it's different, and it's hard to deal with because you know the coaches are the ones that drive it.
Yeah. So you get out of Cleveland and you head off to Arizona. I think was your next stop, and tell me about that experience.
Probably the least happy I've ever been playing football. Obviously, one of the more difficult situations I went into, taking over for a future Hall of Famer. High expectations. The team was in the Super Bowl, I think, 2 years previous. You know, and then having no kind of backing of the organization for, you know, as far as bringing guys in to make us better. But for some reason, we wanted to go to the Super Bowl, but we didn't want to pay for it. And you know, to get in there and kind of have to learn an entire new system to me, but being forced to do it with no reps and go out week one, and I'd practice with the first team for 6 days. You know, I think the expectations on myself to do well were extremely high, but reality probably wasn't. You know, you can't expect that of a lot of guys. I mean, there's a couple guys in the league I think you maybe could, but I don't see myself being one of them. I think Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, maybe those guys could do it in that amount of time, maybe Brett Favre, but you know, it was unrealistic expectations for me, and you know, I held them to myself and they held them on me, but you know, just got down there and a lot of frustration. You know, I thought we had a better team than we did, and
a lot of people thought that.
Yeah, you know, I get down there and I'm learning a whole new team, a new offense, new coaches, and it was just a long year. It was, I mean, you know, just a lot of expectations on myself because I wanted to get back to playing how I know I can play, and you know, so I prepared for it. You know, put everything into it, went into it, and then it was like, oh, hang on a second. You know, we're, you know, 3-10 or whatever. Granted, we were playing in the NFC West, and we were 3 games out of making the playoffs. But
yeah, it's true.
you know, it was definitely frustrating, and to kind of get away from it after the season, look at it, it was, you know, one of the most disappointing, but also one of the hardest on me mentally and physically.
You end up in Carolina, and it appears to me that you went there knowing that it was going to be a backup role. Is that true?
Yeah.
Behind Cam Newton?
Yeah. Coach calls me right after the lockout, and you know, and I had expressed some interest to him before, you know, the lockout happened, saying, hey, I know that Arizona's going to release me whenever they do. I'd love to come out there and, you know, help what I can. I was assuming that they were going to draft Cam. And so I didn't hear anything from him all the way through the lockout. I'm on the golf course, phone rings, and he says, hey, you know, will you come out? We want to talk to you. And I took a bag of clothes for 3 days, and I was there all the way till January.
No kidding.
But, you know, it was
a good situation, though, right?
Yeah, it was. Rob Szczynski was my coordinator in Cleveland for most of the time I was there. And he and I have a great relationship. I understand his offense. I know what he expects. He expects a lot out of me. Great working relationship. Coach Rivera is awesome. Mike Shula is my quarterback coach. We have a great room. You know, me, Cam, and Jimmy, and you know, there's a lot to be learned in there. And I try to, you know, help Jimmy and Cam both, because neither of them. I mean, Jimmy's played 6-7 games or something like that, but just kind of understand what it takes to, you know, prepare every single week, and then what also Coach Szczynski requires and expects of us. Translate it to them, you know, because there's a lot of times the coaches aren't in there with us, you know, and helping Cam learn this stuff, and you know, making him staying on top of his reads. And you know, we get a list of plays that he struggles to call during the practice. So I'm at practice like, okay, he had trouble with that one. He had trouble, you know, just go through it and get him to learn and to watch him progress. Because you know, I was there the first week. I was like, what do we have here? This is a disaster. You know,
Really? It looked that way at the start.
Yeah, because he didn't have, the verbiage was just so long, and he was having troubles. And you know, at one point they came to me and said, hey, you know, just get ready to go. You don't know, we're not sure what's going to happen with him. You know, obviously he's the guy that we're going to, you know, hopefully get in there, but he's like, make sure you're ready. And I was, okay, you know, and it was weird because we were going to Arizona week 1. So I was kind of excited, you know, if I get a play, that'd be kind of cool.
Right?
Yeah. And, but it all worked out. You know, we put countless hours in, you know, during the season, after practice, before practice, watching tape, going over plays, talking, him asking a lot of questions. And then the rest of it, he just went out there and did. He's a very gifted athlete, fun to watch. And I think he's going to do a lot of special things for many years to come.
Derek, something kind of cool happens in the NFL at a certain juncture of a quarterback's career. He goes from being that guy competing for a starting job to that guy who's the mentor for a young quarterback and who helps guide him, helps him learn the ropes. And you've become that guy for arguably one of the great young quarterback prospects of all time, I think, in Cam Newton. What's it been like for you?
It's been good. I really do enjoy it. Kind of explaining to him, you know, week in and week out, giving him different things to kind of grab, or does he grab, or does he grab, you know, things I've experienced as far as highs and lows, going into the week for the preparation. But I enjoy watching him take conversations, meetings, things that I find on tape, coach finds on tape that we discuss in the meetings, and then we go to the field, and then it's watching him see it, you know, watching him see it, watching him execute it, watching him grow. Because, you know, when I first got there, it was interesting, to say the least.
Well, he'd never even, I mean...
Right. He had no experience with that kind of verbiage, that kind of, you know, all the technical things about the route tree and this, that. But to see him grow and to be able to help, you know, if it's only one thing that I can help in the week, one little thing, but it helps and we win the game, I feel like I've done my job. And for me, it's satisfying. It's fun. It's not about making the money. It's not about, I mean, it's about winning games, friendships. That's the part that I enjoy. I enjoy being in the locker room. I enjoy, you know, we don't have one bad guy in our, you know, locker room in Carolina. You know, Steve Smith, everybody kind of gives him a bad rap, you know, because he's very, you know, boisterous in his opinion. But, you know, once he kind of gets to know you and he grabs a hold, he's a
good teammate.
Yeah, he's a great teammate. At the end of the year, pretty cool. He gave me signed a jersey for me, and, you know, and it was awesome, you know, and he and I have a good relationship, which is good because, you know, sometimes it's hard when you have your best receiver and your quarterback, they don't always see eye to eye at the same time. And he kind of would come to me and say, hey, you know, what is he supposed to be doing, or what can I, you know, and those relationships that I like, that's the thing I like about football and team sports in general. But that's what makes my job, you know, satisfying.
You did throw a pass all last season, and you played a few snaps, but what's it like for you mentally and physically to have an entire season off?
I enjoyed it.
Obvious answer, I guess, right?
I'm not going to lie. Getting up on Monday morning and being able to stretch the legs and not wonder what's going to hurt. And, you know, but I prepared. You know, that was probably the most weights I've lifted you know, for my whole career during a season. You know, Jimmy and Cam actually, after like the second and third week, and we kind of got into a little routine where we'd come in on Mondays, we'd work out, get a run, come in Tuesdays, watch tape, and then we'd run and lift, do some abs, try and, you know, work on the beach body a little bit. But, you know, kind of get into that little, you know, a little routine. And, you know, I probably hit a few more golf balls during the season than I have in the past. But, you know, it wasn't like I had completely off and my body had the year off. My mind, you know, it was another thing where I was trying to learn for myself, you know, trying to, you know, obviously keep myself up to speed and be ready to go with minimal reps, really. I think I only had like one day of practice that I actually got reps with our guys, and Cam was kind of dinged up. But it was, I really did enjoy it and have a lot of good
and if something goes wrong,
teammates.
I would think that you're probably as ready to play now after all of that, refreshing your body for a season and the study and all the things that go with it. Are you as ready now to play if you have to as you've ever been?
Yeah, I mean, I think because I could, you know, knowing that it's probably not going to be for the rest of the season unless something huge happens. But for me, it's just making sure my body's ready to go and mine's fresh. You know, and I think obviously Coach Jasinski knows my strengths, knows my weaknesses. And being in that, you know, if I were to get in there, he would know kind of how to make the puppet go.
Well, isn't that what coaching's about, putting your people in a position where they can do best what they do?
Right. You know, and obviously we do a lot of zone read stuff with Cam. And put me in there and run the zone read.
Right.
You know, I mean.
But you're going to be slinging it.
Yeah, we throw the ball around, and we have two great running backs. you know, and some good young wide receivers that, you know, a couple guys coming back from injury. But, you know, we have some things. And, you know, I think that's kind of what made me say, okay, I'm willing to do this because I know that I have a coach in there that knows me, knows my personality, and, you know, has my back and has always had my back.
What are you going to do when it's all over?
That's a good question. You know, I've been, you know, kind of working on it. I always have my camp at Scappoose. You know, do a kids camp in the summertime, and probably continue to do that and try and do some things, working on starting my foundation and doing some stuff outside in the community, and play some golf. Got a house down in Arizona. Plan on being in the sun when Oregon, you know, it rains all the way till April. But you know, and then just see where it takes you from there. You know, I don't have anything.
You've taken good care of your money, right?
Yeah. No, we're doing all right. Bill
As a
Swank.
planner and a guy who does lists and goals and all that.
Yeah.
You've done well with that.
Well, I have another guy, Bill Swancut, who
we know Bill.
Play with. He does everything for me, and has it pretty well set out. He's even more freaking type A than I am. He's got it all lined out to the day, I think. But
any interest in coaching?
I think I could help high school kids and do that part, because I think the biggest thing is getting kids before they get too involved in other things, and kind of grab them and, you know, watch them be successful. I don't know that I could do college just because of the time restraints on family, and, you know, I've done a lot of being away from home, and you know, that's 9 months out of the year, 10 months out of the year you're gone. You don't see your family. If you have kids, those guys don't ever see their families. But I think the teaching part and the kind of the role model leadership part of helping and watching a high school kid grow and be successful, I could do that part of it.
All right, Derek, when we have guys on, we like to give them a tie from Estes. It's up in Northwest Portland, and I should mention the owner, Tony Spear, is a Beaver. And so he went in the back and he said, I've got extra long ties for guys who are 6'6".
For big, tall guys.
So that's a tall guy tie from Estes. Kind of in Carolina blue, so it should work for you a little bit. But I want you to enjoy that, and thanks a lot for coming on. It was really a pleasure talking to you, and a great career. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.